What if I told you that all it took for someone to be able to look into your mind required nothing more than a picture of a house, a tree, and a person? Let's find out, shall we? Hello all of you beautiful people out there and my loyal minions. It's your Hypno God, the Mastermind, Fred Lee here. And I got a special personality test for you. And this is quite easy to do. It's simplified, and I'll just give you a quick rundown of what it's all about. And you'll get to learn exactly what kind of stuff goes on in your head. Before we continue, you gotta smash that like button so that way this video gets popular, you can share with your family and friends, and that way you too can get a better idea of what kind of people they really are. Now do keep in mind that this is a simplified test. If you want something more in-depth so you can have a better idea of who you are, and if you want a proper diagnosis, you can always hit me up by going to my website at fredleemind.com, or if you already have a therapist, then you might as well consult with them in regards to actually taking the real detailed version of the test. But this is simplified just for funsies so you can have a general idea. So since you've already smashed the like button and obviously subscribed if you haven't already, let's get right to it. Now the HTP, or the House Tree Person Test, was developed by John Buck. John Buck created this test in 1948, and it's been revised several times, most recent one being 1969. And this test allows the practitioner to get an idea of what goes on in the subject's head. In this case, if someone has some form of mental illness, they're trying to see if it affects their cognitive abilities in some way, shape, or form, and also to give the practitioner a little more insight of what goes on in their mind, how they see themselves. Essentially gives the practitioner a baseline of what goes on overall in their patient. So knowing that it actually has some clinical purposes, let's get right to the fun stuff. Grab your piece of paper, grab your pen, your marker, your crayon, whatever you used to draw. You're going to draw a house, a tree, and a person. If it takes you, let's say, 5-minute tops, then go ahead and do that. Some of you probably drew it rather quickly, so go ahead and draw the house, the tree, and the person however way you want. And when you are done, I'm going to give you a moment to pause the video so you can do all that. When you're done, you're going to click back here, and we're going to go into the diagnosis of exactly what your drawing is all about. So we're going to pause the video now. I see you finished your drawing and you want to know exactly what your drawing means. So let's get right to the breakdown. Now the dimensions of your drawings, whether the house, the tree, and the person, depending on the dimensions that you drew them at, it represents your overall self-esteem and confidence. So let's say we're going to go into more details, but the house represents family life. If you drew the house bigger than all the other objects, or in this case the person and the tree, then you're very confident about your family life. All right, that's to give you an idea of what I mean by dimensions. Now the strokes and lines of your drawings, depending on how much pressure you applied, how firm and solid or not so solid the lines are, it indicates your decision-making skills and how comfortable you are. It also gives people a general idea of your level of determination. Now let's say, for example, you took more than one try just to draw a line. It shows that you're insecure. It shows that you have out of control perfectionism. Little things like that. So that's what the lines and strokes of your drawings represent. Now, how clear your drawings are represents harmony and flexibility. As I mentioned in the example earlier, the house represents your family life and also how you feel about family in general as well as family values. We're going to break down the house into various parts. Say, if you drew the roof of the house. The roof represents the intellectual, spiritual, and fantasy life. So depending on the size of that, that's one of your values that you tend to have more of. So size equals how much or how little you value that specific thing. We're going to use that as an analogy throughout the entire process here. The chimney represents affective and sexual life. Now, if smoke comes out the chimney, there is some internal tension. Depending on how you draw the walls of the house, it represents the firmness and the strengths of your personality. Now, doors and windows represent the overall context and how well you adapt to the world around you. So, for example, if you have a large door on your house, it means that you are a very dependable person. Now, if you drew sidewalks near your house, it represents your overall openness to your intimate family life. If you drew the ground under any of the drawings, it represents stability and groundedness in reality. Now that you have a general idea of what you think about your family and family values, let's move on to the tree. The tree represents the unconscious values, things that you keep secret about yourself. The crown of the tree, or the bushy part of the tree that you may or may not have drawn, because crowns come in all shapes and sizes like Christmas trees, etc., it represents your overall mental productivity. The branches of the tree represent social contacts and also how satisfied or dissatisfied you are with the connections around you. The trunk represents the intactness of yourself and your overall personality. Say if the trunk is a bit curved, it means that you are flexible. The roots of the tree, if you drew any, represent your unconscious and also reality checking aspects in your personality. Now let's move on to the person. The person represents your ideal version of yourself and how you want to portray yourself to the world around you. The size of the head represents intellectual ability, meaning that big head obviously means that you have some form of high intelligence, and your unconscious, while you drew it, projected that. If you drew hair on the person, it represents your sexuality, virality, and sensuality. The way you draw the eyes represent your level of social communication and perception of the world around you. Now the mouth represents sensuality, verbality, as well as sexuality. So if, let's say, you draw a straight line, it means that you're verbally aggressive. If you drew a nose on your person, it's a phallic symbol. So you don't need to be a Freudian expert to know what a phallic symbol is. Could lead to demonetization if not explained properly. If you drew hands, it represents affectivity and aggressiveness. So depending on the size of hands, it represents how aggressive or active you are. The way that you draw the neck on the person represents your impulse control and how much control you have over your impulses. The way you draw the arms represents your adaptation to the social world around you. The legs represent your support, your overall contact with reality, and just how secure you are about it. And of course, if you drew feet, it represents sexuality and aggressiveness. Now that I've shown you what each and every little part on your drawing represents, and you probably jotted some notes all around them, you can get a general idea of what you are like as a person with this basic dumbed down version of a personality test. And if you thought this was interesting and it gave you a lot more insight to an extent of who you are as a person, slap one of these. And if you want to see how others respond to this test, be sure to give this video a share so they too can take part of it and follow along. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much for your support. I know that many of you have come to this channel wanting to see more hypnosis related stuff, but hypnotherapy is some of the things that I do, mostly, especially during the time of the death cooties that keeps us all indoors and prevents us from going out and doing wonderful things to beautiful people. And you guys are smart enough to understand that. So thank you for being a loyal subscriber, and if you haven't, join the party. And also, one of these, comment down below on your thoughts of what your test results more or less came out to be, and I'll see you guys in the next one.